By this point in our series, you may have thought, well, yes, that is a new way of thinking about public life, and those 4 principles are important for guiding me and my decisions, but what am I supposed to do in this election with these choices? Luckily, that's what our final video is for. Our thoughts can't remain in the abstract. As nice as it is to think broadly, there are times we have to look at the here and now and actually act. However, in an agonizing way, I cannot tell you who to vote for or how to vote. You may have seen this in other commentaries as well. Many people will note that churches would lose their tax-exempt status if they tell parishioners who to vote for. Furthermore, many will make an argument about the separation of church and state. It is inappropriate for the church to speak to these aspects of life. Those are bad reasons. On an important enough topic, the church will not and should not be bribed or coerced by the threat of taxes against speaking the truth. Now, the reasons why I and the church won't speak is because this decision must be one you actively make through your own powers and conscience. The church will not baby you, and neither does she want to. The process itself of discerning and praying over the best decision to the best of your abilities is formative. It forms you into someone who discerns complex questions, who weighs rights and wrongs, who turns to God in prayer in moments of uncertainty. These habits and virtues can only be gained by exercising them. You cannot become a discerning person if you passively receive the answer of something like who to vote for. The questions you're discerning are questions of conscience. The conscience is not simply reducible to deeply held beliefs, which unfortunately is how we usually think about it. Conscience is the voice of God resounding in our hearts. Since it is a voice, we must listen and enter into conversation with it. Of course, we must form our conscience. The same voice that speaks from within is the same voice that speaks through Scripture and the church. Listening to one will help us understand that same voice elsewhere. There are certain things that the church teaches that are gravely wrong and cannot be justified. These are things that we cannot support in the public realm. Torture and racism, targeting civilians in combat, abortion, violating human dignity by treating workers as means to an end. Catholics and people of goodwill cannot in good conscience support those realities or individuals who advance these injustices. However, just when we think we have finally found a clear red line telling us what we can and cannot do, our bishops, who have been given by Christ the authority to speak on matters of faith and morals, state the following. There may be times when a Catholic who rejects a candidate's unacceptable position, even on policies promoting an intrinsic evil, may reasonably decide to vote for that candidate for other morally grave reasons. Voting in this way would be permissible only for truly grave moral reasons, not to advance narrow interests or political preferences or to ignore a fundamental moral evil. Election cycle after election cycle, we Catholics often find ourselves politically homeless, almost trapped between candidates who often support different, intrinsically evil positions. And right when we think we have an escape hatch from using our own prudence, the bishops put the ball back in our court. There are situations in which the best candidate may endorse something inimical to our faith, and yet our conscience leads us to support them, in spite and not because of that particular view. The bishop's document, Forming Faithful Citizens, which I will include a link to below, also notes that when all candidates hold a position that promotes an intrinsically evil act, the conscientious voter faces a dilemma. The voter may decide to take the extraordinary step of not voting for any candidate, or, after careful deliberation, may decide to vote for the candidate deemed less likely to advance such a morally flawed position and more likely to pursue other authentic human goods. If we find ourselves at a point like that, we need to be very honest with ourselves. We must seriously evaluate if we disregard a certain position because we don't care about it, even though our shepherds have detailed its gravity. We must pray diligently for wisdom and guidance. And in the end, we must only act in a way that, when we stand before the King of Kings at our judgment, we can say honestly and without hesitation that knowing our limits, knowing ourselves, and knowing what the church teaches, we acted in a way we thought best. If we can honestly say that, I think the Lord will understand any oversights or mistakes we may make. Faithful Catholics who take church teaching seriously may and will disagree on this sort of prudential judgment. Their evaluation may be different from ours. Because the conscience isn't simply deep feeling, there is room for us to have a conversation and dialogue and attempt to convince each other of our viewpoint. But all of this must take place with the prior assumption that the other person is also trying to best follow their conscience and church teaching. We share unity in the body and blood of Christ. We cannot let the political world divide us. In all of this, we must not allow voting to become the only way we participate in public life. Imagine if every Catholic put an equal amount of time into participating in their neighborhood or local community as they did to watching debates, reading about policy positions, and fretting about their vote. I pray for all of you as the election approaches. I pray for your wisdom and prudence, and I pray that Our Lady of Guadalupe, the patroness of the Americas, may intercede for us for a deep, lasting unity and peace in our nation. May God bless you and guide you.